Matthew, the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, "You are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how could its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything but to be thrown out and trampled underfoot. You are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hid. No one, after lighting a lamp, puts it under the bushel basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." Jesus said, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have come not to abolish, but to fulfill. For truly I tell you, until heaven and earth are passed away, not one letter, not one stroke of a letter will pass from the law until all is accomplished. Therefore, whoever breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven. But whoever does them and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. For I tell you, unless your righteousness exceeds that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." This is the word of God for the people of God.
Thanks be to God.
I don't know when the last time I preached from behind the pulpit was. I know that none of you have ever done this, but I have heard rumors that sometimes a cook can put a little bit too much salt into a dish and make it totally inedible. I've heard that rumor, and I know none of you know how to do that. But salt is a constant in our lives. If we have high blood pressure, the doctor is clear. Cut down on the salt. Salt can sterilize the ground. If you want to get rid of the weeds, just dig in a whole lot of salt, and nothing will grow there. Where I live in Aptos, salt water is intruding into the aquifer, and we're losing fresh water. And the farmers that water their strawberries are looking for ways to find fresh water, because salt water is not going to go well on their strawberries. A long time ago, I had the opportunity to swim in the Dead Sea in Israel. And I did the Mark Spitz thing. I put my face down and I stroked out and swam like crazy. When I pulled my head up out, everyone said, "Don't open your eyes!" Because my lids were coated with salt water. If I had opened my eyes, my eyeballs would have stung. They brought me ashore and they washed my eyes out with clean water. Yeah, salt is all around us. But salt is important. If you've ever raised cattle, you take a salt lick and you put it out in the field, because that's an important part of the cow's digestion, to lick on that salt. We use it for flavor. We use it as a chemical balance in our bodies. It's essential for our nerves and muscle functions. Sometimes I watch one of the cooking shows, and I think one comment comes up more often than any else. Your dish was beautiful, you treated it well, it was cooked well, you need to add more salt. Now, Mahatma Gandhi, led a pilgrimage for salt back in 1830. The British had put a tax on salt, And the Indian people needed the salt. And so they hiked 240 miles to get to the sea in violation of the British tax. And they brought back salt for the people. The British arrested 60,000 Indians for violating their laws. Kind of like our tea tax, remember? Remember from history, none of us were there. But salt was important for Gandhi and for the people of India. Salt was vital to the explorers. The sailors that left Europe to try to find new lands, they would put kegs of salted meat, pork and beef and fish, seal them up so they wouldn't leak, and the average sailor every day ate 1 pound of salted beef or pork or fish, a pound a day. Salt was important. Our explorers couldn't have made the trips, and without salt in our diets, you and I would not survive. Salt also cleanses. Have you ever had your mouth feeling not so good? Gargle with warm salt water. Or if there's canker sores, that seems to help me at least. There have been times when I was camping and wasn't paying close enough attention to my oral hygiene, and my mouth felt all gunky. And just some warm salt water and gargle with it and swish it around, spit it out, and my mouth suddenly felt clean. And I know there's a difference between sweet and savory, but somehow gargling salt water left my mouth tasting even sweeter, which seems a contradiction, but it works for me. Jesus says, you are the salt of the earth. The world needs that kind of cleansing action of salt. Did you see it a couple weeks ago? The Chief Justice was in Congress. Chief Justice of the Supreme Court was in Congress for the trial. And he called the defense and the counsel before him, and he admonished them for being so nasty to each other. He said, that's not the way we do it. You need to make your point, but you can do it nicely. Where's the salt that will clean out this kind of nastiness, nasty behavior, and nasty language that we have for each other? Now, if we were Spanish, if we were Mexican, and we had a very firm mother, she would simply say to us, no es costumbre. We don't do that. It isn't customary. We don't do that in this house. No es costumbre. We don't talk like that. We don't act like that. We don't do that. Where are the salty Christians that simply say, this is not how we act. This is not how we talk. This is not how we treat one another. But salt is more than cleansing. Salt adds flavor. Jesus talks about if the salt loses its taste. And aside from the chemicals breaking down, the sodium and the chloride, I don't know how salt loses its savor. But Jesus was concerned about that. If we are no longer salting, if we are no longer flavoring the world around us, then the world is in trouble. Jesus is not talking only about our meals. Obviously, that's the analogy. But Jesus is saying we need to be salt for the earth, salt for one another. On an average day, according to one statistic that I read, our veterans commit suicide. 120 veterans will commit suicide every day. During the hour we are here in worship, on average, 5 veterans will take their own life. Among teenagers, 10 young people out of 100,000 will take their life during a year. Doesn't sound like a lot. But our county has almost 300,000 people. That means 30 young people, on average, would take their life. What's wrong? Where is that savoring of life? Where is it that we reach out and say, life is so good. I can't wait until tomorrow. I can't wait to be with friends. I can't wait for the next adventure in my life. I can't wait for the new beginnings that I have in my life. Where is this savoriness? Jesus said, the Psalms say, taste and see that the Lord is good. The Psalms invite us to take in the goodness of God and that taste is good. The physical images of our relationship with God are many. Jesus says, I am the bread of life. Take and eat. Those who take my bread will not be hungry, but will be satisfied. At communion, we will receive the bread and the juice. And Jesus says, this is like my body. This is my giving to you. This is my sacrifice to you. Take and drink. And remember, if you will, my love for you. Communion is a reminder to us of the goodness of God. We gather to celebrate God's presence in our midst, to savor God's gifts of life and joy. And then we must reach out. With what God has given us, we must reach out to our community, into our world. So many people are trying to satisfy those inner hungers deep down inside. And they think that money will do it. Or sex, or drugs, or alcohol. Something will fulfill that hunger. And my observation is the more they take, the more they need, and the less satisfied they are. They're seeking in the wrong way to fill that hunger. And Jesus says, you are the salt. You are the ones that add savory to the world, to the people around you. People are finding unsatisfactory alternatives, and they don't see it in the church. And I want to say the reason they don't see it in the church, I blame the church. I don't blame them. I blame the church because they look at the church, not only this church, but that church, the whole church. And what they see is coldness, closeness, judgment, isolation. We don't want you here. You're not welcome here. You've got to act like us and dress like us and be like us and talk like us. Otherwise, you're not welcome. People don't find that attractiveness. Come and see. Come and taste. And know that the Lord is good. The church is not giving that message. And so people are seeking it elsewhere. They've got to look at the church and see the open doors. See the open hearts, the open minds. You are welcome here. We love you. We care about you. And we don't want you to necessarily be like us, think like us. We want you to be who you are because God loves you. God loves you just the way you are. And we want to share that love of God. There are rules for restaurants. Not only do you have to have good food and good service, but you've got to have adequate parking. You've got to be visible. You've got to have good signage. There's a restaurant in our area, very popular. It's been there, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. Parking is terrible. You've got to park across the road, the Safeway parking lot. Full all the time. People love to go there. And I don't know, have you ever tried to tell someone how to get to Shadowbrook Restaurant? You can't get there from here. But we went for our anniversary a couple weeks ago. Thursday night. Every seat at every table was filled. They've ignored the marketing because they have something to sell, something that people want. The church needs to be that. Even if we're not right on the corner of Highway 9, we need to be the church that people seek. I've heard about you. I've heard your service is good. I've heard that the food you offer, the food that I'm seeking for to satisfy my soul, is filling and filling me with love. Jesus calls us to be the salt of the earth, to give flavor to the world around us. Jesus says, be a light to the world. Don't hide it under a bushel basket. Give your light to all the world. Put it on a table that everyone can see it. We're going to sing that in just a couple minutes. I was trying to think, who could I find to close this message about being salt and light for the earth? And the only one I could think of that would best do this is Mother Teresa. Here are a couple of quotes. She said, spread love everywhere you go. Let no one ever come to you without leaving happier. Let no one come to you without leaving happier. And she said, at the end of our lives, we will not be judged by how many diplomas we have received, how much money we have made. We will be judged by, I was hungry, and you gave me to eat. I was naked, and you clothed me. I was homeless, and you took me in. You are the salt of the earth, said Jesus. Let your light shine. Put it on a table for everyone to see. In the name of the God who created us and called us good, placed us in the midst of an earth of plenty, and sent Jesus to share his love in new ways, walks with us every day in the Holy Spirit. Amen. And our hymn.